Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. We got a pretty good crowd tonight. I'm super excited to let you know about everything going on. First off, I'll introduce myself. My name is Jenna Doherty. I am the Communications Director for Fremont for Everyone. This is the organization that's putting on this event. We're very, very happy that you are here today. We like to be able to get you involved, to get you to be able to take part in your civic duty, and to be able to hear from the people that are vying to serve you for this election. Yeah, this is the first of two actually. We're going to be doing a city council candidate on Monday forum as well. And so, again, here at the library, same bat time, same bat channel, so it's going to be, we're very excited again. And want to thank Becky over here, as well as the rest of the library staff. Give them a round of applause. They put together all the chairs, put together the nifty little signs behind the candidate so you can know who's going to be running this. And before I turn it over to our moderator, David Bonacorsi over there, I just want to give a little bit of an emphasis on the candidates being respectful, not making personal attacks, and not going off topic, because you came out here out of your own time to be able to come hear directly from them. And so we want to give you the best experience. So say like someone says something inappropriate like, I love the 49ers, we're not going to put up with that. David over here is going to be the moderator. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to David, and he'll introduce the candidates. He's going to give the ground rules about everything going on. So without further ado, David, actually, okay.
And maybe we'll do a really quick mic check.
Quick mic check, everybody.
Let's do a quick mic check for some reason.
I'm going to go ahead and use this mic check. I'm David Bonacorsi, along with Jenna Doherty and others here this evening. We're with Fremont for Everyone. And Fremont for Everyone advocates for inclusive, affordable housing for our residents and ensures Fremont is welcome new neighbors while remaining a wonderful community for living closer to work, raising a family, and aging in place, a home for everyone. And we're so honored this evening to be co-sponsored with the Fremont Library that set up this wonderful facility. And I'd like to formally welcome our candidates this evening. To my immediate left is former council member Vinnie Bacon, Rohan Marfatia, Hiu Ng, and current council member Raj Salwan, who are the four candidates that have been announced for mayor for the November election. And each of the candidates have been given the ground rules. They're going to be given 2 minutes opening and 2 minutes closing. And we're asking them to be affirmative in what their positions are. During the question and answer period, there may be an opportunity for some candidate to point out another candidate, make a contrast. If that happens, that other candidate will have up to 30 seconds to respond. Vanita Verma is our timekeeper this evening, and she's going to be giving, and she's raising her hand, she'll be giving a 30-second warning and a 0 warning, at which time I will interrupt you because we want to have as many questions as possible. So we will go in order, and then we'll continue randomly going forward with each of the candidates. And at this time, I'd like to ask our first question, or we'd like, Mike, yes, before.
No. I apologize. Maybe the candidates, and we can share the one mic that is.
We're going to have to share, we're going to have to be, and hopefully the mic will come back to me. So we're going to have our opening statements, and they go simply down the row. Our first candidate, up to 2 minutes, former council member Vinnie Bacon.
Thank you. You're going to have to wrestle it back from me. All right, thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for having me here tonight. Given that this forum is put on by Fremont for Everyone, I wanted to talk about affordable housing in my opening statements. I think we all know that the city of Fremont has failed to develop adequate affordable housing. The RENA numbers don't lie. We produce far more market rate housing than is recommended and far less affordable housing. In short, the current system of having developers build purely market rate housing and relying on in-lieu fees isn't working. So what do? Well, I came up with 3 things. First of all, we need to charge higher fees. And I was disappointed when the issue of fees last came up at the city council, and they voted for lower fees than actually what staff recommended, even though it was noted in that meeting that the higher fees don't generate enough to cover for the adequate affordable housing demands of new market rate development. Of course, what this means is that we're going to be falling further and further behind. Secondly, we should use our affordable housing money to work with market rate developers to get them to include affordable housing within their development and create mixed income projects as opposed to purely market rate projects. Currently, the money from in lieu fees and bond measures tends to go exclusively towards lower end housing. This creates the quote unquote missing middle. In other words, there's not enough housing for people like teachers that make too much to get into deed restricted housing, but may not be able to afford a $1 million townhome. Finally, we should rezone areas near transit to require affordable housing there. Locations near transit are the most appropriate spot for affordable housing. Sadly, we failed to provide a decent amount of affordable housing near the Warm Springs BART station. I was the lone vote against the general plan amendment that allowed for that development. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rohan Marfatia. I'm a candidate for Fremont City Mayor this election. Thank you, Fremont, for everyone for organizing this. Thank you, the library system as well, for hosting us. A little bit about me, I'm 41 years old. I've lived in Fremont since 2017, which is when I moved from St. Louis, Missouri. Finally was able to buy and afford a house in 2020. I am married to Twinkle, who's here in the audience. She's a PhD in genetics. I have boy-girl twins who go to Fremont public schools. There was a lot going on over the past 4 years, as you all know. I mean, we have had a series of scandals. The former Fremont city manager, Mark Deney, was involved in fraud and retaliated against Captain Bobbitt, who committed suicide. There is crime on the uptick, there is homelessness. So I decided to step up for public service, and that's why I'm here. In terms of my education, I have done my MBA from WashU, Olin School of Business, and I have an undergrad in electronics and communications. Homelessness is a complicated, multifaceted topic, right? So, I mean, as per the Benioff study, we know that there are more than 2,000 homeless individuals in the Tri-City area. A lot of them, in fact, 90% of them are from the same county. So they are our neighbors. We have to deal with compassion, right? So that's important. 70% of them don't know that service exists for them. So that's an important thing from an education standpoint. And then 80% of them are having health issues. 65% of them have had drug issues. So it's a multifaceted topic. We look forward to having this debate amongst the candidates and ensuring that we have data-driven solutions. So my agenda is make it data-driven, figure out where are the gaps, and then plug the gaps. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank you. It's not easy. Secondly, I want to thank the hosts. They have put together a wonderful event and provide an opportunity for some of us to speak to some of you. My name is Hiu Ng. Some of you may know me as a school person. I'm still a school person, actually. But I decided to run because I want to fix this homeless problem that's been with Fremont for a long time. No progress has been made. My campaign website actually is called Keep Fremont Safe. I want to keep all the homeless people safe. I want to keep all the people with a home safe. I want to keep everyone safe. I have a plan, a detailed plan actually, in my website. Okay? It's now in public domain. It is not just hand waving and say, we're going to fix this problem. Please go take a look. There is a plan. I also want to say that the one area where I'm frankly still racking my brain and waiting for a moment of inspiration is that I'm still trying to figure out what to do with all the people that actually refuse our help, our city's help. That's an area that I could still use up some feedback. So if any one of you has any good ideas at all, I want to listen to you. So please come, visit, and comment. The plan is going to be our plan. Thank you.
Sure. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Raj Salwan, and I'm running for Fremont Mayor because I believe that Fremont needs and deserves a bold, experienced, and collaborative leader to address our biggest challenges. My number one priority is solving problems. I'm running because I believe we need to address public safety, homelessness, building affordable housing, tackling traffic congestion, and the rising cost of living. Affordable housing isn't just a policy issue for me, it's personal. Growing up poor, my family faced housing insecurity, moving several times in the city of Fremont. That experience shaped my belief that every person deserves a safe, affordable place to live. That's why, as a council member, I've championed policies that create affordable housing options, streamlines projects near transit, and supports those that are most vulnerable. Before there was Fremont for everyone, there was Raj for everyone. My vision for Fremont is a city where every resident feels safe, supported, and empowered to succeed. Together, we will foster a community that values diversity, strengthens public safety, embraces innovation, and builds a future grounded in environmental sustainability. I'm committed to bringing my work experience for you, continuing to fight for solutions that keep Fremont inclusive and affordable. While some talk about the housing crisis, they often oppose real solutions. Let's turn the page on the rhetoric and the division and the complaining, and let's actually try to tackle and solve the many issues facing us by working with our community, with our council member, and with our regional leaders. Together, we can make Fremont a place where everyone thrives, where people don't just get by, but truly live well. A place where families grow, where seniors are valued, and where every resident feels connected. Thank you.
Thank you. The first question is going to be to Mr. Marfatia, and the question is as follows. Has Fremont adequately addressed the immediate needs of people experiencing homelessness? If so, please tell us what our best strategy has been. If not, what should Fremont be doing?
Thank you for the question, Dave. So as of now, as per the last survey, which was done by Digelny Consulting, I think June 2023, we had, as per the last count, more than 2,000 homeless people in the city of Fremont. That was the estimate. I think 2024, we have seen an uptick. Has the city done enough? I mean, if the homelessness population or the unhoused population is increasing, right? Obviously, there's more to be done. The state mandate is 13,000 apartments or units, or homes rather, which should be built over the next 8 to 10 years. Half of them, which should be affordable housing. So we have some state mandate which we need to follow. And the proof would be when the problem actually ameliorates and improves and reduces and goes down completely. So we have to work towards that, Dave, right? I think there are efforts taken, but if you have like a shelter which just houses 60 odd people and you have 2,000 people on the streets, that suggests that there's more that needs to be done. So there's lots of work that's remaining. We have to work together, we have to collaborate. There are certain acts as well. So we have SB4, the Affordable Housing on Faith Lands Act. There is regulation being passed. So we have to work towards that, and we have to work collaboratively to ensure that this problem becomes better over time or gets eliminated. There is an interesting video. Marilyn is in the audience, and she shared with me how Finland solved the homelessness problem. Very interesting video, housing first approach. So it's a nuanced issue. We have to ensure that we are able to put a shelter, and that leads to everything else. And we have to follow the state mandates. So yes, there's more to be done. What has been done is not sufficient. Thank you, Dave.
I am with homeless people. I visit them every week, sometimes once in every 2 weeks. I see them. our city has failed to help Hong Kong, round two, the city was disqualified. Hong Kong, round three, we're still waiting for money. Hello? Okay. I believe there is a lot of sense of urgency. During the last board meeting, I speak, I pound on tables, I pound on the podium. I ask, where is your sense of urgency? Where is your sense of urgency to the city council, the entire city council? We're not helping them. We're not doing enough. Most help come into small forms of, cleaning garbages, doing laundries, taking some showers. All of those are good, okay? But those are what I call bandages. They are bandages when our city needs an open heart surgery. We have to take a different approach. The small things does not make enough of a difference, not in these people's lives. We need to go and help the people who want to go back to work. That's fundamentally what we need to do. We cannot create a permanent class of dependency. That sort of long-term strategy does not work.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello? Hello?
That's it.
I can speak loud. Well, of all the issues that we're facing, homelessness is the most complicated and the most difficult. There's no one silver bullet to solve all the issues. My plan for homelessness is both compassionate and practical. Most important thing is that we need to invest more in mental health at all levels. We have been underfunding mental health for decades, and we need to start working on a regional manner to open more facilities for mental health. Also for addiction support, we need more addiction support. There's a lot of addiction that's not being addressed currently. We need to provide a shelter. We need to get people out of the streets, out of the sidewalks, out of the parks, and into shelter housing. As a society, we are under-building shelter housing where we can bring people inside. Once we bring people inside, we can solve all of the issues that we are facing, whether it's mental health, addiction, health issues, disability, getting them a job training, and we can provide the services and create a pathway to permanent housing. So we need to continue to build more affordable housing. And I want to correct that we're building more affordable housing now than ever before. We're building more affordable housing than any other city in the entire Bay Area. We have 901 units that we recently completed. It's not enough, but somebody's got to pay for it. And I also want to correct, the homelessness is decreasing by 22% from year 2022 to 2024. So it's not enough, it's a huge issue, and we need to treat it like an emergency crisis. So we're looking at all options to see how we can help the folks that are homeless get the need and the services that they deserve, and to permanently try to reduce this issue in our society. I look forward to discussing more specifics in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Bacon.
I guess we can just give it up on the microphone. Everyone can hear me okay. I'll try to speak loud. We'll give it a shot here. So I believe the question was, are we doing enough to combat homelessness in Fremont? I think the answer is a frank no. Just as an example, a few years ago, staff proposed a three-pronged approach related to safe parking. Safe parking where it would be conducted in nonprofits, safe parking where the city would create new safe parking locations, and then safe parking where they would go to where people are actually living in cars right now. Council did not, they chose only one of those. They said they only chose the one where nonprofits would get involved. So clear, and this has actually come up a few times since that decision was made a few years ago. They could have done more, and they did not. Also, I just want to say, first of all, I want to applaud Mr. Bonacorsi, who came to a recent council meeting and talked to, basically said that, we signed a charter that we're going to be a compassionate city. And that was easy. Who's going to vote against that? It's another thing to say we're going to have policies that are actually compassionate. I will say I am firmly opposed to the recent decision, the Supreme Court decision that led to Governor Newsom's decision that say that you can just scrub away encampments. I believe that policy is first of all cruel. I've seen it happen in San Francisco. You're taking a person who has next to nothing and taking everything away from them. And what I was shocked at is that at the recent city council meeting, staff brought this up. And they said, we're basically going to implement policies like that. And I have to applaud ex-council member Bonacorsi for his comments, who basically said, this is not right. Not a single council person spoke against that. And from what we can tell so far, we'll see what staff brings back, but they're going to bring back policies that say basically you can sweep away encampments. And finally, I can just say the one problem I really have with that, it won't do anything. It'll just take resources that we're putting for actually dealing with the homeless prevention, and it will take them away, and our police actually won't be able to work on crime. So thank you.
Mr. Ng, you're going to be the first up on this round. Recently, the United States Supreme Court in the city of Grants Pass said that it was no longer cruel and unusual punishment to criminalize the state of being homeless. On Tuesday, September 17th, the city was considering new policies in line with the governor's new executive order encouraging cities to address removing encampments. Do you support the new executive order of the governor? Are there any new ordinances that you think the city should adopt in light of the City of Grants Pass decision and the governor's executive order? Mr. Ng, you have the floor.
I think the governor's actions, for the most part, does not really impact us at all. Okay. I believe that what we needed to do is to stop looking at the entire issue and figuring out how do we keep some separations between the homeless people and the homeless people. Okay? The Supreme Court has finally cleared all obstacles. Right now, if we want to, we can clear these people up. But that would not be the right thing to do. Okay, that would not be the right thing to do. We need to look at it and say, okay, how do we keep some of our sensitive areas, our schools, our parks, our places of worship, our libraries, daycare centers? How do we keep some of these people away from some of these sensitive areas? And we need to figure out what to do with them in a humane way. Right? We cannot just ask them to leave, because every city right now is in fact considering claiming everybody. Fremont is slow. So what happens when we are the last city? What happens when we are the last city? Everybody else homeless is coming to Fremont. Okay. So I believe what the governor is doing is pretty much meaningless. It is just another show. We need to figure out our own solutions. Go to my website. There's a plan.
Mr. Salwan, next up.
So being homeless is not a crime. This decision by the governor and the Supreme Court allows cities to have one more tool in the toolbox. And most important is we can't just sweep folks, because if you do that, it will just move them from one block to another block. You have to find a place to put them in. And that's where it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. We need more shelter housing. We need to help them find shelter so that we can help them with the issues that they're facing, whether it's disabilities, getting benefits, mental health, addiction, job training, and just the support services, and a path to permanent affordable housing. And so once we do that, then we can help tackle and solve all the various issues that they may be facing. And that's the only way to do these sweep programs. If anybody does the sweeps in the absence of support services, it will not be successful. And a lot of these issues don't stay in our borders, so we need to work regionally. We need to look at investing again in more mental health centers, looking at more addiction support, and being able to address the various issues. Once we've found the shelter, then we do need to look at impacts to the community. We definitely want to help the homeless, but we also need to make sure that our community supports that initiative. And so, for example, around Irvington, there were these large RVs that were impeding the access to Irvington High School and Horner. So we do need to address that. And I want to talk about the safe parking real quickly that was mentioned. We had a homeless study that was done recently, and the biggest issue that came out of there was that we need to focus more on prevention. So we have a limited amount of money that we have. We can help more people by preventing homelessness. We can help twice the people by preventing homelessness than just the safe parking, which only helps 15 to 30. Thank you.
Mr. Bacon.
As long as it's working. Thank you. Well, I already said in my previous answer that no, I am against those kind of sweeps. Again, to emphasize, they simply don't work. I actually worked at a job in San Francisco where I had to walk about a mile from BART to get to my employer. And I went by numerous homeless encampments. And I did see the police, like every month or so, they would do these sweeps. And all that would happen was someone would basically get everything torn up from their place, and then they would end up a block or two away. It simply does not solve the problem. And I would like to point out, kind of what Mr. Ng said, there are 180,000 people, homeless people in California. That's a recent estimate. So the problem is not going to go away by simply doing some sweeps or thinking that you can just kick them out of your town and get them to go somewhere else. It's interesting, if you go to, they talk about the favelas in Brazil, where at least they give the homeless or the very poor people a spot to live. Whereas what we're saying is, no, you cannot have a spot to live. I did want to mention the idea of prevention, because that was one thing that came up. The idea that, let's actually help people before they get homeless. Because of course, if someone is evicted from their apartment for not paying their rent, most likely they do not have first month and less security deposit to be able to get another place. So when you evict someone, you've effectively created a homeless person, unless they're lucky enough to know a relative or someone to get to be able to stay there. I actually did bring a referral to do some kind of, rent stabilization in Fremont. None of the other council members went along with that. There also was a part of the recommendation by a consultant that was hired several months ago, was to look at this issue of rent, some kind of rent stabilization. Somehow that just did not get in the plan, and it's not at all being considered. But that, if you want to prevent people, don't, keep the eviction moratorium going and don't allow for those kind of evictions to happen. Thank you.
So the career politicians on this table, they're stating that they'll fix the problem, right? They have the time, right? They were elected officials, right? Mr. Salwan has been on the council for a while. Vinnie Bacon, your wife, has also been on the council, right? So suddenly we are hearing all these potential solutions, wherein you all had the time and you had the opportunity to fix those problems. So why didn't that get done during your term? I want to point out this brochure, right? We had the FUTA, Fremont Unified School District Teachers Association, at all Fremont schools this morning, right? So look this up. It says the average counselor to student ratio is 441 to 1. Some serve as many as 900 students, right? So we need more mental health counseling support. There are inherent grassroots problems that we have to solve. Dave asked a question, are you in support of the encampments being removed as per the Supreme Court order or not? I was there in the city council meeting, as some of you I see in the audience. I know the city officials are going to come back on the Grand Spat's decision. Obviously they're educated enough and will follow their recommendation. But I think there are inherent problems to how politicians have handled this issue so far. And that's why I've decided to step up. The homeless management information system, As per the Collini consulting report, which Mr. Salwan mentioned, right? It says that you don't even measure homelessness. The services which are provided to the city, they're not even being captured accurately. Not all 100% of them. My management philosophy is you can manage what you can measure. You cannot manage which you cannot measure. Right now, we are not even measuring it.
Do you want a 30-second rebuttal? Go ahead. Okay.
One second. Please give me 1 second. Yes, please give me 1 second.
That's your 30 seconds.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, being the mayor is not on-the-job training. We definitely want to make sure that we have people that have attended meetings and are familiar with the issues. Specifically, as far as the measuring, we measure a point-in-time count, which is done every 2 years, which tells us the number of homeless outdoors at these sites. And we don't really regulate FUTA. FUTA is a separate organization that is run by the school board. As far as the issues, these issues are very complicated. It's not a simple solution.
And Mr. Salwan, you're up next for the next questions. Do you want 30 seconds too? You have a dual-edged sword. Go ahead.
Give me 1 second.
Problem.
Or 30.
You are being mean, Dave.
Be nice.
Okay, let's do this. Yes. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Well, first of all, I tried. I remember when we talked about homeless funding, when in one of our budget meetings, I suggested that we take some of our budget and move it towards helping the homeless. I didn't even get a second on that. When the HNC came up, that was grant money. That was not money technically from our budget. Secondly, like I said, I brought a referral to do some kind of tenant protections, some kind of just cause eviction so that people wouldn't get evicted unfairly and thrown out into the streets. My motion didn't even get a second. Thank you.
That segues into the next question for Mr. Salwan. There has been new state law that sets minimum rent stabilization for certain classes of tenants. Do you believe that renters' rights should be further strengthened? If so, what additional protections are needed, if any?
Is this a ballot initiative, or can you explain that?
It's just, no, I'm just thinking at the city level, as Mr. Bacon just mentioned, you have the ability at the city level to institute rent stabilization. We have AB 1482, which sets minimum standards. Cities still can't enforce additional standards.
Well, so in 2017, we passed a rent stabilization formula, which capped rents at 5%. If there was any concerns, we had a mediation where folks from the landlords and the tenants could work together to try to resolve the issues. That has been working very well for City of Fremont. In 2019, we added 5 more measures that were supported by a majority of City Council. And so that also has been helping tenants. As of the present moment, the current programs are working. I'm always exploring other ways we can try to keep people in place, try to help them. But I do not support a larger bureaucratic process such as cities like Berkeley or Oakland, which costs millions of dollars to enforce and regulate and have rent boards that are elected. I think the process we have is working. It seems to be solving the problem where we have put pressure on the tenants and the landlords. And effectively, that 5% has served as a cap for folks. We also have state policies that are coming that are also regulating the rent control, as well as the bill that was passed that capped the limit. So that's my answer.
I'm waiting for the green.
Okay.
Just give me a nod.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so first of all, in 2017, what was brought up was, and what was done was in a response to my referral related to some form of rent stabilization. I was definitely not happy with the result that we had, which was basically bring some improvements to the RIBRO program. But it was not at all something that was binding. It was a non-binding measure. And actually referring to the issue that came up when staff made 8 recommendations related to improving the rental ordinance to help renters in Fremont. Unfortunately, council only approved 5 of those. And I voted against that because I wanted to go with staff's recommendation that we do all 8 measures to help Fremont's renters. One of those was they would have to justify rent increases over 5%. That one was removed. Thanks to the council, that was removed. And secondly, the retaliation that people could be, could basically be evicted for retaliation, or So anyway, and I forget what the third one was, but I was really disappointed because staff came up with what I felt were 8 good recommendations, and council decided only to go with 5 of them. And I've always been a strong advocate for renters. I actually serve on the board of the California Democratic Party Renters Council, and indeed I have their endorsement. So I consider myself a strong advocate for tenants. Thank you.
So I want to bring out a few examples, right? About less than 10 of police officers who are serving in the city of Fremont are able to live in the city of Fremont, right? So just imagine that. I mean, city officials, some of them commute from Tracy, come over here. So the question is about rental ordinances and stuff, right? So it's an important issue. Say, for example, if someone loses their job, they're residents of Fremont, right? I mean, it's very difficult. A lot of people are paycheck to paycheck. So in terms of the overarching ordinance and guidance, plus what is it that the city should do, I think there should definitely be some support. We don't want to make it too bureaucratic, but we want to ensure that our officials, our firefighters, our policemen, our teachers are able to live over here. They are able to afford to pay rent, their mortgages. And then if there is an untoward incident that happens in their life, which can typically push them into being unhoused, which we have seen based on the reports like the Vinnie report and the county reports, I think there should be some kind of support which is provided to ensure that we prevent those incidents from happening. So can we do something extra? Yes, right? I mean, we should support people who are into essential services, who live over here. And we should design and we should update the regulation and ordinance to support it. Thank you very much.
On rent stabilization, my position is pretty much the same as Mr. Salwan's. So nothing new to add. I want to say something about one number that's been mentioned. That is in fact misleading. People talk about the homeless people from Fremont dropped by 20%. I want to say that number is completely debatable. What happened to them? They just evaporated? I don't know. Okay. And besides, you know how many homeless people is in the city of Newark? 50, as compared to Fremont's 800. So 100 is not something that we should. 800 is not something that we should be proud of. Not real. And it has been many years now. So where exactly are all the shelter housing that we need? Where? Other than HNC and a minor extension. Where are they? Where are the shelter housing? I am going on waiting for the city to take action. Okay? Because some of the most critical pieces that we need to address the homeless issue are simply missing. We have a large population of homeless people. We don't have enough shelter housing. So how big is our RV park? Less than 20 spots. We depend on some churches trying to allow people to park. Why is the city not take the bull by the horn and fix this problem?
Thank you, Mr. Ng. The next question for Mr. Bacon. beginning with Mr. Bacon, is in the last decade, in order to meet housing goals, Sacramento has taken more action to preempt or override local control in terms of approving projects over the counter, with staff approval, without planning commission or city council hearings, and specifying cities the city can employ, for example, objective design standards. What do you believe is the proper balance between state mandates and local control? Mr. Bacon.
I'm definitely much more of a fan of local control than state mandates. And actually, I regularly attend meetings in a group called KO, exactly what it stands for, but it's the people that are basically arguing for local control. I definitely think when you have mandates from the state, it just doesn't work. And if you look at like what's going on with the RENA numbers, I want to bring that up because cities just don't meet the RENA numbers. It's something I always complained about when I was on the council. And I remember one time they had the annual housing report where Fremont typically did like 400% market rate housing and like 30% of its affordable housing goals. In other words, we vastly failed to provide affordable housing. They wanted to put that on the consent calendar. And I said, no. I mean, I didn't have any issue with the report. It was what it was. But I said, we need to call this out. We need to call it out that we are failing absolutely to provide those RENA numbers. So anyway, I'm trying to talk out and opening it back to you. So, okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
Stop. Wait. Okay, go ahead.
So the question is, what's the right balance, right, between state mandates and city control? So I think instead of viewing these two as separate entities in a way, why don't we kind of figure out how do we collaborate and how do we add on to the mix, right? How can the city do extra? Say, for example, neighborhood planning commissions or neighborhood committees, right? How can we have more participation from the community to provide their ideas and then implement those ideas through initiatives? I think transparency is required. More engagement is required. We have seen what happened in the case of the shelter in 2019, right? If the city unanimously decides something, there will be people who will be going to Dakota and protesting it, right? Why? Why can't you have a more participative forum wherein you have some neighborhood committees, people have a say-so in what needs to be done based on the state mandate, and provide feedback to the city so that we have some ordinance and legislative action which could be added on to have even more bang for the buck. I think there's a way wherein we can have more participation which should be encouraged. So that's how we'll have the right balance between what the state is requiring us to do and how city and its residents can provide the feedback to the city and have like a right mix to ensure that the state policies and legislative actions actually succeed with transparency and involvement of the city residents. Thank you.
In general, I don't believe the state should go for power grabs and control everything. I believe that the state should simply allocate the resources and let the cities figure it out. California is a huge place. How is it that, as any state agency can say, we know your city better than you? That's not possible, right? So no, I don't support the state just grabbing more money and grabbing more power and grabbing more everything. They should let it go. Allocate it to the city. Let us take the responsibility of figuring it out. That's the right path. The right thing is not being done all too frequently by the cities too. I am not going to say the city are doing good jobs either, okay? But let the cities do it. It's still the right answer. From a policy viewpoint, from a process viewpoint, let the city do it. Thank you.
So I support local control. We have a council policy of supporting local control. We always want to be able to make decisions locally because we know our communities best. Having said that, we have politicians that politicize the issue of development. They politicize the issue of developers. We need to get the right kind of development. We need to have a nuanced conversation about what kind of projects we need in our community. But it is irresponsible to just condemn and block projects. Because of politicians like this, the state is stepping in more and more and more. And to counteract that, we need to make sure at the local level that we're trying to get the right kind of projects. We're engaging all the stakeholders, our neighborhoods, our community groups, and even our developers. It's okay to talk to them. They won't bite. Our affordable housing providers are also developers. So if you want affordable housing, we gotta work with our affordable housing developers. So I think the state response is due to local government not being obstructions, not doing what they need to do. So to walk that fine line, we need to make sure that we're doing our part. We're building near transit as they require. We're planning. Cities don't build anything. We just have to plan for it. And we have to be responsible. What's happening more and more is cities like Huntington Beach are getting sued. Other cities are getting called out because they are trying to fight the housing. And the city of Fremont, we're one of the first cities to get our housing element approved because we wanted to be proactive. And I can proudly say that we should be able to accommodate the requirements near our downtown and near our transit centers. And so by working with the state and being part of the solution, we can actually have change that we can be proud of. If we continue the path of demonizing developers and scapegoating, the state's gonna take more and more and more of our rights. So if we want to get the right kind of development, we want to preserve the neighborhood character, then we need to be responsible.
Thank you. We have more audience questions than we possibly asked, so I would ask the audience members tonight to talk to the council, the candidates afterwards and see if you can ask them directly in email the questions. But this is within the scope of our mission, so I'm going to take an audience question here. How should Fremont compassionately integrate our growing refugee population into our community and overcome language barriers? Mr. Marfatia.
So I spent quite some time in St. Louis, Missouri before I moved to Fremont in 2017. There's a program that St. Louis had. It's called St. Louis Mosaic Ambassador Program. We had a bunch of refugees coming into St. Louis. I was on the program. I was one of the ambassadors of the Mosaic program. There's a lady called Betsy Cohen, and it's a phenomenal program. I mean, it encourages people, youngsters, to be on the program and welcome these people who have come in from various nations as refugees, right? Right now the world is blowing up. We are having multiple wars going on. There's an influx of population. Yes, there would be people coming into Fremont as well. And we have a diverse city. We have a great diversity, great amount of diversity. We need to ensure that youngsters who are sitting in this audience, right, school-going kids, senior citizens, adults, I mean, we have such programs wherein they can participate. A Fremont Mosaic program, for all that you might care, right, which becomes like more participative. When festivals happen, we don't want just the Chinese people to celebrate the Chinese festivals or Indian people to celebrate Indian festivals. If someone is coming over from Palestine, someone is coming over from Ukraine, right? We have a bunch of refugees come over. If you have such programs which empower individuals, when you recognize them at the city council, right? As your future mayor, I will ensure that such programs are in place. Those who are performing and are welcoming the immigrants and refugees, they are well recognized, and there's a good amount of assimilation happening within the community and bonding happening as well, because diversity is only going to increase. Thank you very much.
I am a refugee. Okay. I come to this country as a refugee. I think I understand the challenges. It is not possible for me to outline anything that says this is how it's all going to work in 2 minutes or a minute and a half. So what I want to say is this. If we really are serious about helping the refugees, what we should do is mobilize our own community. We need to go and talk to different groups from different ethnic backgrounds and say, would you be able to do, what can you do for some of the people that coming from your country, your ethnic backgrounds, your language? Can you help them get stuff? Make sure they have food, make sure they have clothing, make sure that they can find a job somewhere. Right? I think this is the kind of problem that we really not possible because it touches on many different areas. School, well, that is a jurisdiction of FUSD, right? Jobs, well, no one really is responsible for any jobs, right? City is not responsible for getting a job. So I think we have to start looking at it and breaking it down and say, so how do we mobilize? How do we have an organization? Fremont for everyone, right? Fremont for everyone, so refugees are everyone too. So how do we take a big problem and say, let's put it into small parts? That's only
Mr. Salwan.
Thank you. I was proud to support the Compassionate Charter, and specifically we've helped Afghan refugees after the war. And I don't know the exact amount, but we raised at least $500,000 to help the Afghan refugee settle in the city of Fremont. And that was just the city funds. We also got support from our local houses of faith, like the churches that were housing folks, providing support, education. Our county even stepped in. The supervisor, Hubbard, was helping in that effort as well. And so we had a pretty robust program here in the city of Fremont, and our human services was in tune as far as counseling, training, getting them used to how schools work here. And so it was a successful program, and I think we need to continue those kind of programs. We can't just allow people to just come in and not get the support services. We need to make sure that they get integrated, they're productive citizens, they can, enjoy the fruits of this great country. So I got a little bit of time, so I'll just go back to the tenant protections. So when these issues came up in 2017 and 2019, the majority of the city council acted to do something to help the tenants. There was a very small minority that refused to help in this effort. Why? Because they said it wasn't good enough. They wanted it perfect. So majority of council was willing to act and make some progress and get majority buy-in. This is the most important skill in city government. You gotta learn how to work with other people. You gotta know how to get a second on your motion. You gotta know how do you get 4 votes so you can move things forward. As a council member, and particularly as a mayor, if you don't work well with others, if you're not respected, you're not gonna get anything done. And you can be a great activist, a great protester, but that's all you're gonna do. You're not gonna make any change.
Thank you. Mr. Bacon?
Thank you. Well, I think that, this is similar to the homeless problem. We obviously have to deal with compassion. We have to help those people that are obviously in a horrible situation, that are refugees from another country. Except here, of course, we have a much added twist is that they're not at all used to anything about American culture and living here. And I think this really demands more, efforts from social workers and things like that. And that's something that I've always advocated for, is that we need more of those type efforts, especially regarding the homeless because, the police, if they encounter homeless, all they can really do is move. Obviously, that's not going to solve the problem. You need some kind of social worker to work with these people. So I do really applaud the work that was done by the city and the Human Services Department, the creation of the Human Resources Center, the Family Resource Center. This has been a great thing for Fremont, and I really applaud the work of Suzanne Shenfield and that group. One thing I will say that this brings me to is that one thing I've always advocated for is getting the numerous volunteer groups that we have in Fremont, getting them the support that they need. I've seen so many things where we have volunteers that are very active, wanting to do a lot. For example, the people that are interested in planting more trees, and they're just not getting the help that they need from the city. One of the things I did was I created a referral to actually help more in the kind of events like, for example, the Festival of India. My referral was to basically help give money for the 4th of July parade, the Festival of India, and to really help with those kind of events to really celebrate the diversity. Because of course, everyone up here will say they're proud of Fremont's diversity, but we need to really put some teeth into that and really have those organizations that are working to promote that diversity and really give them the funds they need, give them the platforms they need in order to do that kind of work. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to need a little bit of setup for this next question we got from the audience member. The city of Fremont, as with most jurisdictions in California, adopted a housing element. Ours goes from 2023 to 2031. The state, through various regional bodies, determined how many housing units should be built within that 8-year period. And there's something called a regional housing needs assessment or allocation, which is RHNA. So when I ask the question, that's what RHNA stands for. And this question will go to Mr. Ng first. Do you believe that the RHNA or RHNA process is the right mechanism to predict the housing need? If not, what are other solutions to hold cities accountable? Mr. Ng.
No. Because it had not worked. Right? It had not worked. So I think some entirely new process needs to be done. And I do want to say something about how you work with the rest of the city council. You got the city council members that are working with each other. So are shelter housing being done? No. Are RV parks being done? No. Are the homeless people being helped? No. Are the regular people being helped? No. I know 2 churches that are in trouble right now. They're asking me for help. So, this year, this election year, you all have the opportunity to elect some new people, not only for the mayor, right? You guys are from different regions of the city. You can elect some new city council members as well. We should turn a new page. Turn a page. People has not been able to fix this problem for years and years and years. You're going to get more of the same thing. More of the same thing. Are you satisfied? Are you okay? I don't think so. I am here. I am raising my voice. I am standing up. I say, let's build a new council. Let's build a new council.
Thank you, Mr. Ng. Mr. Salwan.
So the write-up process, I have my concerns because it's not exactly working as we want. But it is a process. I mean, that's the existing system we have, and at least it kind of gives us an idea of what kind of housing or how many we are expected to build. And so as a city, we're trying to comply with the state law. We can't change it, so we have to work with the system. And so we're trying to do it as responsibly as possible. Like I said, we were one of the first cities to get our housing element certified. So that put us in compliance. And it's working decent. There's some areas we could do better, for example, affordable housing. But the big issue about affordable housing is that we need the subsidy. Somebody's got to pay for it. Either government or taxpayers or a developer. So we have to figure out where do we get the funding. The needs are great. I'll just talk a little bit about the homeless issues. Cities were never meant to handle homeless issues. That was supposed to be a county function. But more and more, we're spending more and more money handling homeless issues. So just recently, we approved $2.5 million just for encampment management. That doesn't include our human services budgets, our police budgets. And so the need is great. And so these issues have been building up over a long period. I do feel like we have a plan. We are putting a dent into it. But ultimately, it's going to require building more shelter housing, which again, the city can't do everything. We can't build all of it. We're going to need help from the state, the county. We're going to need some more measures to put that in place. And then we can help them with all their needs. You look at places like New York, East Coast, they have enough shelter housing. People are indoors. They're getting the services. And that's what we're pivoting to. We're pivoting to more, getting them indoors, giving them services, and that's what's making a difference. Now, 20% is not much, but if you're in the 20%, that's something. Now, there's a lot more we could do, and I definitely want to make that the top priority.
Mr. Bacon, thank you.
The RENA process itself, I think, is good. Is it perfect? By no means. But I think it is. We do have an objective agency that is basically telling us how much housing and what types we need. And what types we need is the most important things. The bottom line is that up until now, there's really been no enforcement. Like, as I mentioned before, the city vastly failed to provide the adequate amount of affordable housing. We did like 400% market rate of what was recommended and like 30% of what was recommended as far as affordable. That's vastly failing. And again, they wanted to put it under consent. And I said, no, let's at least note how badly we're doing there. And the thing is, there's no enforcement. And that's not just for Fremont. Unfortunately, we see that in other cities where basically, the market rate developers, they get what they want. And they are allowed to come in and build a lot of market rate, and we don't get the adequate amount of affordable housing. And I do want to say one thing, that I assume that the don't demonize developers comment was aimed at me. I don't have a problem with development. What I have a problem with is the market rate versus affordable housing. I was even asked in a debate, why are you against market rate housing? And I'm like, I'm not against market rate housing. I live in a market rate house. But the problem is that the ratio that we're seeing is just nothing but market rate. And you look at like the recent development on Blake out just north of Central. I just looked today, those homes are about 1.8 million. So it's just, and that's, what we're seeing. The development that got me interested in Fremont politics, Patterson Ranch, nothing but $2.5 million homes. So we can't solve the problem when we let developers come in and just, sure, you want to develop nothing but $2 million homes and say we're doing something about affordable housing. We need more creative solutions, and we need somebody to push back against that. Thank you.
Mr. Marfatia.
So in terms of the RENA Act, right, the numbers and stuff which govern, I think a lot of times these reports come in and you are always like chasing your tail. Because you have the mandate, you have to kind of suffice that, but things happen to the city, right? New people come in, you have to constantly ask yourself, hey, how should we do more? How do we adapt? So as your next mayor, I want to ensure that we are asking the right questions. Say, for example, if 13,000 was the number, but the reality is we need more, right? More units. How can you do that? How can you just not meet the number, but exceed it? What else can you do? How can you be proactive? Politicians on this table are saying that they'll get things done. They had the chance, right? We actually have to kind of ensure that we are able to tap into the new legislation. So for example, AB 976, there is extension of incentives for ADUs. There is SB 4, the Affordable Housing on Faith Lands Act. There is AB 835, building a wider variety of homes, right? So these are things which we should be on the leading edge of things, on the bleeding edge of things, right? So we should take that. We should definitely take that as a threshold. But how can you go beyond? How can you do extra? How can the city be a leader in ensuring that some of these newer things which are coming in, permitting process, right? ADUs and stuff. I've heard horror stories wherein you're going through an extensive process and it takes forever. So how do you make things simple? How do you make things easy for residents, right? In order to kind of ensure that this problem actually gets solved. I think that's what needs to be done. And as your next mayor, I'm going to ensure that I'm going to ask the right questions and ensure that things actually happen. Thank you.
Here is an audience question, and I think this showcases how not only is the role for a mayor or a council member to institute policy, but to educate and inform. So with that as the framework, Mr. Salwan, Mr. Hiu mentioned about 800 homeless people, and you mentioned, Mr. Salwan, that there are 901 houses already built. Which number is accurate? Why do we still have homeless people on the street?
Okay, good question. Well, I think there are two different things. One is homeless individuals, the other is affordable housing. So I was referring to the affordable housing units that were built. And so, being on city council, we pretty much do zoning change. That's our goal. We don't build anything as a city. So when my colleague speaks about not building enough affordable housing, it's because somebody didn't pay for it. Majority of the affordable housing is funded by in lieu fees, and those fees come from developers who build market rate housing. The other way we collect fees, and so let me go a little further. Those fees are collected for every house you build. You'll pay maybe $25,000 or $30,000 just for affordable housing. If there's a commercial building, you also pay fees for those as well. Those go into a pot which is leveraged, and then we get funding from the county, the state, the federal. And then there's the bond, so more taxes. So we can't just wave a wand and affordable housing just appears. Somebody's got to build it. There's got to be enough incentive where they can make it happen, and there's got to be adequate funding. If somebody feels that they failed to build enough, then they need to look in the mirror. Because every time they're voting against some of these housing projects, you're reducing the amount of affordable housing fees that you're collecting. As far as the homeless issue, I mentioned that there's a 20% reduction, and that is accurate. That's based on that point in time count. Again, it's still too much. We need to do a lot more. And the city is definitely making this the top priority, and we will be actively working to reduce the unhoused population in the city of Fremont. But we're going to need to collaborate with our regional leaders, both at the county as well as the state. And we do have more funds coming in from Measure 1, which is helping with mental health, and try to leverage those funds.
Thank you, Mr. Salwan. Mr. Bacon.
Thank you. Yeah, the number of 901 units, it might sound impressive, but in fact, like I mentioned, we are not at all meeting the reader numbers as far as affordable housing. We are not doing a good job at all. So the idea is we're basically going to build more market rate housing. We're going to collect the in lieu fees from that, and then we're going to build affordable housing from there. The problem is that's what we've been doing for the last 20 years, and it's not working. That's the empirical evidence. I mean, clearly, if building market rate housing gave you enough money to build affordable housing, then we would have adequate affordable housing, but we don't. It's simply not working. The evidence is there. The other thing is the last time the issue of developer fees came up, and again, where council voted on lower fees than what staff had actually recommended, it was noted that those fees that we're getting are not even enough to cover the new housing. So if you put in 100 units and you get whatever fees you get from that, those 100 units, there's a nexus study that shows those market rate units will create a demand for affordable housing. And yet the fees that we collect do not even cover the demand for that new housing. So that problem is not only that strategy of just collecting the in lieu fees, it's not only not working, it's making things worse. You're actually creating more demand for affordable housing than actually you're getting from the in lieu fees. Also, I would say there have been instances on the city council where we could have pushed for more affordable housing. For example, the Warm Springs BART was a perfect example, where the developers came and they wanted to do 13%. Even though the RENA numbers say we need something like 40%. And Warm Springs BART was a perfect location for affordable housing. They came in at 13.3%. That was their proposal. I remember members of the Planning Commission actually said, this is wrong. We should not let them to get that low. I was the only member of the council who said that's too low. We should not allow it. Thank you.
So my take is we need to find the right balance. Longtime residents of Fremont, and then obviously we know what happened in 2019 with the shelter and stuff. So my first point is we are not dramatically changing the character of the city, but we still need to find a solution to this problem, right? So of course, we need to meet our state mandated numbers. The units and stuff which we are talking about, are they enough? not. They're probably not, right? We know that they are not. And even the numbers, the point in time numbers, they are debatable. I mean, and in certain reports, we say that, hey, it's about 800 people. The Collini consulting report, which came out by the city of Fremont when they engaged the third-party consulting firm to do the study, they stated that as of 2023, the estimate is about 2,000 people. And point in time count has to be viewed with a pinch of salt, right? You don't know. I mean, if someone is not reported as unhoused, does not show up. The homeless management information system, which I referred to, right? I mean, that system does not accurately capture the services. So the true number, we don't know. But we have to go above and beyond, but we need to find the right balance so that we are not dramatically changing the character of the city, but we are having the right number of units. We are having the legislation towards our side, whether it's the ADUs, whether it is impact fees for developers. We want to ensure that we are doing all the right things to strike the right balance, leveraging public-private partnerships, NGOs, not-for-profits, religious and faith-based organizations. There are different things which you should try out. So as your next mayor, I'm going to ensure that I'm going to bring everyone together and ensure that we are going to have the right balance and ensure that the community members are happy with the solution. And we actually have a solution that works, eliminating from grassroots level the problem which is existing right now, right? Take into consideration the right kind of systems, take into consideration the right kind of programs, whether it is mental health or whatnot. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Mr. Ray.
Fremont used to have more than 1,000 homeless people on our streets. After the 20% that Mr. Salwan is talking about, we still have more than 800 people. And that 800 number is accurate. I don't lie to you. I don't lie to you. That's where we are. When I say 800 instead of 1,000, I already given him some credit. Newark is at 50. Just so you know. Given the magnitude of our problem, affordable housing and shelter housing are two different issues. Okay? They're not related. Well, maybe. But mostly, those are separate issues. Affordable housing is done by developers. Shelter housing can be done by us, by the city. So where are we? By the way, I know at least one homeless person that I see. Okay, I visit them. He had not seen a doctor for months. What happened? He had an accident. He broke one of his legs. So he's been sitting inside his camp the whole time, going nowhere. There is a sense of urgency.
Thank you, Mr. Ring. We have a next audience member question. It says, all of you are talking about homelessness, affordable housing, etc. What about the common people? What are your plans which will benefit all common people here in Fremont? Mr. Bacon, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Well, I think I mentioned before, we're talking about the missing middle. And what we've seen, I think you can have the microphone, please. Thank you. So I mentioned before is that we're talking about the missing middle. Because what we have now is where market rate developers will come in, and the homes typically, I've seen the ones, you can see what's new on the market. They're about $1.5, $2 million townhomes or single family detached homes. When the fees that we get, and again, to put the inadequate amount of affordable housing that we do get, is typically what's called, deed restricted housing, which means that you need to prove that you are on a lower income to receive that housing. So the missing middle is people like teachers or factory workers at Tesla who make a decent living, but quite likely a $2 million or $1.5 million condo is out of reach. So what we need to do is what I mentioned before, is we need to come up with more creative solutions as far as development and get truly mixed income developments. not the pure market rate and then the pure affordable. And I think what the problem is that, like I say, when we get bond money or money for affordable housing from the in lieu fees, it typically goes exclusively to that kind of development. And I'd like to see a much more creative solution and actually to work with developers to come up with something that fits in better with the community and is a true mixed income development. And it really discourages me that in some development, they don't want the affordable housing on site. They want their development free from riffraff, so to speak. And that is something I think we need to get that out of the policy. We need policies that say we're going to have mixed income development, and there you go. Now you've got someone who just graduated from college, maybe has a decent job, but they can't afford $1.5 million or $2 million condo, and they certainly don't qualify for deed restricted housing. Thank you.
Who asked that question? Can you raise your hand? Yeah. Okay. So I thank you for that question. I think the question, just to explain to everyone, it's about you're talking about affordable housing and everything, but what about for everyone else, right? What's your plan for the city of Fremont? So it's a wider question, right? You're not just talking about housing. So you're talking about economic development, you're talking about policing, you're talking about mental health, you're talking about a multifaceted issue over here. So I've had a 20-year career in tech sales, right? I know that what's the heart of the city? I mean, the heart is economic development, right? That's where everything starts. Once you have the city engine humming, once you have businesses trying to come to town, once you have jobs created, it will create all kinds of jobs, not just tech jobs, also low-wage jobs, right? I mean, that's where the engine gets jump-started. When you talk about the $440 million budget, which has been recently approved, we know that when you service that budget, you're talking about basically property taxes, you're talking about sales taxes. So it comes down to numbers, right? So when the question is, what would you do? What's your vision to jumpstart the economy, right? We have to ensure that we are more business friendly. We have to ensure that businesses don't leave Fremont. So in the current administration, I mean, we don't even have a bowling alley, right? When my kids have to go attend a birthday party, we have to go to Milpitas because our last bowling alley has closed. So if that's the state, we are putting a band-aid, right? We are not solving the grassroots problems. So the way to do it is, how do you become business friendly? How do you attract jobs and businesses? How do you reduce unemployment? So essentially, since I've worked on public-private partnerships, I've been instrumental in training bright American undergrads for high-paying tech jobs. I've seen how to work with state and city economic development councils. I'm going to ensure that I jumpstart the economy of Fremont, and that would lead to everything else as well. Thank you very much.
I believe that the people of Fremont are reasonable, passionate people. For the most part, they just care about personal safety, public safety. They do not want to be impacted. Okay? I think that is where we bring the most meaningful impact to the people that actually are living inside houses. We do not allow the homeless situation to continue, to allow crimes to occur. And by the way, most of the homeless people are not dangerous. But they are not all not dangerous either, right? There is a small element that's giving everybody a bad name. Okay? So we need to figure it out who's what. That's our challenge. But until we get to that point, we need to maintain some separation. I'm sorry. We need to ask them to please leave our schools, our parks, libraries, facilities, daycare facilities, all the places where there are a lot of kids and senior citizens. We need to ask them to please go somewhere else until we finally figure out what we need to do with shelter housing. City of Fremont does not have shelter housing. Nowhere close enough shelter housing. It's not like I can just take these people off the streets and put them somewhere. There's nowhere for them to go. Nowhere. So we have to do what
Thank
we
you,
have
Mr.
to.
Salwan.
My number one priority is solving problems. And I'm running because I believe we need to address public safety, meaning we need to add more police officers and retain the ones we have, invest in technology to get the bad guys, and hold offenders accountable. We also need to support our firefighters to make sure we have a fast 911 response time when somebody has a heart attack or any major issue. We need to improve our entertainment, retail, and fine dining options in the city of Fremont. We need to build our downtown. So as mayor, that's one of the first priorities is I'll bring all the stakeholders together to create an entertainment dining district. We need to continue to make Fremont the Silicon Valley hub. Fremont has a lot of potential. We're the number one place for advanced manufacturing, number one for building cars, clean technology, but we can also be the hub of Silicon Valley. We have the great leaders, the CEOs, and all the engineers. We want to have clean streets. We want to improve our infrastructure, fix our sidewalks, and just improve our quality of life in the city of Fremont. We want to invest in more park space, keep our open space, and preserve our hillsides. We want to invest in middle-class housing. That's often an area that's not being addressed. And that entails having smaller units that people can afford rather than the large homes we have now. Much after World War II, we had a lot of smaller units, and the average house size has increased a lot. So we need to look at bringing those back. We need to have fun in Fremont. It can't be a boring city. We got to make sure we have a lot of things for our folks to do. We're missing revenues that go outside our city. They go to Santana Row, Pleasanton, Palo Alto, and we need to keep that revenue here, and we need to have places for people to go. And of course, economic development. I mean, like I said, we're doing well relative to other cities, but we could definitely be doing more. Whenever we bring more businesses to the city of Fremont, that generates more services. Thank you.
This is going to be the last question before closing statements, and I'll remind the candidates who've done very well, the closing statements are not an opportunity to attack somebody else, but tell your own vision. And this is an audience question, which I think allows you to show your own personalities, your own backgrounds. So we're going to begin with Mr. Marfatia. Whether in the private sector or in public service, whether serving on council or in any capacity, what has been the accomplishment you're most proud of? Tell us what you did and how it impacted other people. So tell us a little bit about yourselves. Sure.
When you have a career across continents and countries, right? And in hindsight, you can connect the dots, but there are some vivid memories. So I remember right after doing my undergrad in electronics and communications, I was there installing a cell phone tower in a developing nation. And these are people and these are communities where they had never had cellular connectivity. So I was there, and they were like, hey, the entire village was around that tower. And they were like, hey, I mean, this is very important to us. And here was I was trying to uplink the tower to 3 different satellites, finally got it connected. And after the earthquake, that particular village was finally able to make cellular calls to their sons and daughters who were living in different cities. So these kind of experiences form you as a person, right? You see how, whether you are in the private sector or whether you are in the public sector, impact is the key word. How can you be impactful to society? So these kind of experiences shape your career. When I was in Missouri, and we were working with economic development councils, and I had this group of people, and they had done their undergrad in tech fields, but someone was cutting grass, someone was delivering pizzas and stuff. So I had an opportunity to train these people and put them into high-paying tech jobs, right? And we worked with the city and state economic development teams. So that gave a lot of gratification and satisfaction that you are actually driving impact to society. And that's why I decided to step up. I want to kind of ensure that what politicians are saying that they'll do versus what they've done, that track record is in front of you. So please trust that change is needed, and I'm here to drive change and elevate Fremont. Thank you.
I actually have done a lot of things that I'm proud of. But one stands out. I was a tutor. Fremont Unified School District has this program called Achievement via Individual Determination. I work with 3 full-time teachers inside a classroom, along with some other capable tutors. And we teach them, not by giving them the answer. We actually take the time to walk them through the mental process of how do you go about solving a problem. We show them and say, if you are stuck, what are some of the things that you can do so that you can free your mind, because we believe every child is eventually capable of getting that problem right. So we actually teach problem solving every week. That's what I do. I was a 7th grade tutor. I was an 8th grade tutor. I tutor. And I can see when they finally, when that light clicks on, I can see in their eyes. I had a girl, a 7th grade girl, who was really shy in the beginning, okay? She speaks very softly. At the end of the year, she speaks just as confidently as anybody else. And it seems like a small thing, but I find it very rewarding. Thank you.
Well, I grew up as a middle-class child, and the thing that I'm most proud of is my 3 kids. You know, there are 3 wonderful children that went through our public schools, and they're all great individuals, great human beings, and great moral citizens, and that's probably my greatest accomplishment. I was very proud to see my youngest son graduate Cornell Vet School and join the practice, and that's been the greatest joy of my life, has been my children. And so, you know, the hopes and aspirations of myself and my entire family rest on our future of these kids. As far as on the city side, I've had a lot of accomplishments, but just to name a few. One thing that I championed in 2016 was the cut-through traffic. I was the only one talking about that in 2016, and that was a huge issue back then. And some of these streets were getting almost 70% increase in traffic. And these people were cutting from 880 to 680. So some of the policies that I specifically mentioned in my campaign and that were implemented once I got on the city council reduced some of the traffic in these streets by 70%, and then some of the streets 30%. And so for the neighborhoods, that made a huge difference. They could finally get out of their houses and be able to go around town. Most recently, I helped advocate for additional funding for Sunrise Village. Again, I'm not bragging, I wasn't flashing it, but basically they had an issue where they were thinking about closing Sunrise Village in my District 5 because they did not have adequate funding. So I worked with our city staff and our county staff to get them additional funding. And we were able to get them this additional funding just a couple of weeks ago. And so now they're able to operate Sunrise Village. If we had not done that, if I had not worked with them, they would have closed Sunrise Village. That would have reduced our shelter capacity. So we are trying to preserve and expand that. We also were able to get a new age-well center in Warm Springs, and we made the developers pay for it. We got a new downtown event center with no new taxes, and now we're building a new community center. Thank you.
Mr. Bacon.
Thank you. Yeah, I was very proud that in my mid-20s, I went back to graduate school, and I have joint master's degrees in city planning and transportation engineering from UC Berkeley. I definitely have a passion for city planning. But like probably many people in this room, or at least in this city, I got into tech, and tech has been very good to me, and I'm very proud of what I've done in tech. I started as a Tier 1 support engineer and moved up into management. I was the director of support at 2 different organizations where I actually built up support operations from nothing. And I currently run the Salesforce group at the company that I'm currently at, a financial company that I'm currently at. I do feel the need to say that I am a software developer, not a real estate developer. And there's some people that actually seem to confuse that in the States. Anyway, and also, so at about in my kind of my midlife crisis, I decided to get back into to politics and activism, and I got involved with my local Sierra Club. And I quickly became the chair of the local Sierra Club group here in Southern Alameda County. I served on the political committee for this SFA chapter, and also was elected to the executive committee of the SFA chapter. And one of the things we learned from that I learned being on the political committee is we want environmentalists serving in local government. That was one of the things that they really impressed on me, and that was why in 2008, when it came time to actually try to run for city council, I said, hey, I'll step up, I'll do it. So now I do, in my time on the council, I got to get some of my desires for city planning back. I will say, kind of been accused of being an activist or a protester on the council. I used my seat on the council to try to get things done. I brought referrals on a sanctuary city because I thought that was morally right. I brought a referral on minimum wage because I wanted to see those at the lowest level in Fremont's economy helped out, and other referrals. Thank you.
We're now going to have our closing statements, and we're just continuing the order that we've been going. So, Mr. Ng, 2 minutes, and I again encourage the candidates to speak affirmatively about their own visions. Thank you.
There is a sense of urgency because being homeless is a psychological drama. Some of these people have been dramatized, frankly. And so, my estimate is these people they want to go back to work. Some of them want to go back to work. That desire is only going to last because we're human beings. Everyone has limits in terms of how long you can keep hope. It is 2 to 3 years. After that, we lost that person. We lost that person. We would have to do so much counseling just to bring some of them back. Okay? The best answer is still prevention. We need to prevent. But it is not enough to just prevent. We need to go out and help the people that are out there now. And I think this is where the city is failing. Where's the shelter housing? Where's the RV parks? Where are all the services that the essential services that the city needs to provide? Where? So, there is a plan. I actually have a plan. It is at my campaign website. It is called Keep Fremont Safe. Keep Fremont Safe, not Hiu Ng anything. Keep Fremont Safe. That's my goal. And I would appreciate all of you coming tonight. And I hope you will find me a good mayor.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, and thank you for coming tonight. It's a great honor to be your council member and to run for mayor. Again, I'm ready to hit the ground running from day one. The mayor's main job is to attend committee meetings where they represent the city of Fremont. I'm proud to say I have a 100% attendance record since I got involved in 2005. I'm already serving as the alternate on the Alameda County Transportation Commission. I'm serving as the alternate on the Alameda County Mayor's Conference. I am the vice president on the East Bay League of Cities. And all those relationships will serve me well as your next mayor, because all those folks there are supporting me. it's very important to have a mayor that will fight for the time to get money back for your city. And I built relationships with all the elected officials. That's why I have the support of both Congress members representing our area, Rohan, Eric Swalwell, Supervisors David Hubbard, Elisa Marquez, all the regional mayors, every single city council member that's in this current office, and all the other organizations such as the Fremont Police Association, Fremont Firefighters, building trades, labor, business groups. I'm the only candidate that can get this broad coalition of all these different interests that usually don't agree. I've had mayors that ran against each other. They're both supporting me. Every single person that has worked with myself and some of the other competitors is selecting me to be the next mayor. And I truly believe that when I'm elected mayor, when I work full-time for you, selflessly, I will be able to accomplish a lot of things to make our city the best city in the world. It would be a true honor to serve in this capacity and to bring our community together around a common vision and make sure that our city is winning. Thank you.
Thank you. For me, the biggest problem in politics today is the influence of money. We see it at the national level, which is why I believe we have poor legislation regarding gun laws and a lack of attention to the existential threat of climate change. At the local level, the main financial corporate interest is related to development and real estate. I saw this firsthand with the issue of Patterson Ranch, where the property owners donated tens of thousands of dollars to city council members, and then got a general plan amendment done that increased the value of their land by literally hundreds of millions of dollars. The resulting development was neither sustainable nor affordable. Seeing this pay-to-play politics firsthand, I decided to run for office on a platform dedicated to combating it. I was the first candidate in Fremont's history to refuse campaign contributions from developers. I was amazed how many people on the left, right, and center liked that position. It actually started a trend, and a number of other candidates have since followed it, along with some candidates who've actually changed their position from not taking developer money to now taking developer money. Unfortunately, our current city council seems resigned to continue the same housing policies that have got us into the affordable housing crisis that we are currently in. We need a mayor who is not afraid to push back against developers' demands. Someone like me who stood up to them and challenged them when they wanted to put only 13% affordable housing in Warm Springs BART, and also challenged them when they wanted to put 0% affordable housing at the Asher, which is right next to the Fremont BART station. These were serious missed opportunities to provide more than the bare minimum of affordable housing required. I believe that I am the only candidate in this race with a proven track record of fighting for more affordable housing at every turn. And thank you all for coming out tonight.
Thank you everyone for making it to the debate. It's been a nice debate. On behalf of everyone, I want to thank you all for coming, and Fremont for everyone for hosting this. My campaign theme is Elevate Fremont. I'm the youngest guy on this panel over here, 41 years old. I'm one of you. I'm not a career politician. I decided to step up. I have the right experience of being on the public-private partnership forum. I've worked with technology companies on smart city projects, so I know how to get things done. I'm fully vested in the city. I have 2 young kids. They're second graders in Fremont Unified. 3 generations of my family reside over here. My vision is to build together a thriving, safe, and inclusive Fremont. Some of the experiences that have shaped my career, how many of you know Mother Teresa? So I was fortunate enough to meet Mother Teresa not once but twice when I was growing up. I met her. She's a diminutive lady, right? She was like 4'11" or 5 feet tall. But when you meet someone like that, right, and when you see their aura is much bigger than their personal embodiment, that kind of inspires you, right? How can such a person, I remember I was like in 7th grade, I was taller than Mother Teresa, but she was so huge. Her personal.
Let's give all of the candidates a round of applause. It takes an enormous amount of commitment and time to run for office, especially for the second largest city in Alameda County. Nobody mentioned how large we are, and the second largest area in the Bay Area next to San Jose. So it's a huge commitment. We have a growing population, and we're really honored to have all four of you here tonight to answer our questions. I want to thank again, on behalf of Fremont for Everyone, our partnership with the Fremont Library and Becky Macheta in the back room who set this up for us. So thank you very much. I want to thank Jenna Doherty, who is our communications director, for this wonderful flyer. Aren't these good-looking guys on this flyer? And Kate Ammon over here, who had the questions, and Vanita Verma, who did our timing. And she hasn't cut me off yet, so I'm doing okay. I'm at zero. And Marie Hughes, who's Facebook Live. I'm going to be putting it on our website, www.fremontforeveryone.com. And you can all see it tonight if you have Facebook as well, and share it with, and I hope the candidates will share it. This is really the first foray, I think, of the campaign season. And I also want to thank people offline like Lisa Dans and Kathy Ruby, for helping us put the questions together. We're going to be back on Monday, September 30th, 6:30. There are council candidates in 3 districts, District 1, Districts 5, and 6. And we have candidates, multiple challenges in each district. So please come out, tell your friends about it, and we're going to have a wonderful forum for the council candidates on the same issues that we discussed this evening. So again, on behalf of Fremont for Everyone, thank you very much for coming this evening.